companies all over the world are facing unprecedented levels of CapEx, right? Digitization, deglobalization, energy transition, and they're starting to think more creatively about how are they going to fund this, how are they going to fund this capital, and private capital is going to play an increasingly important part of that. The Apollo platform, $700 billion, equity, credit, hybrid, lots of different creative structures, and the ability to scale it. These type of blue chip, large cap companies, they're not talking about 100 million or 500 million. They're talking 2 billion, 5 billion, 10 billion plus. And so the ability to really come up with those creative solutions in scale is really, really critical. But I think you're going to see more and more of this coming because absolutely more from Apollo, but in general, just the need for this type of capital is insatiable.
Right.
Really insatiable.
We saw in the earnings report, right, all these tech giants having an insane amount of CapEx to try to get their AI capacity up. Intel obviously is one of them. They did, though, say that their manufacturing won't be profitable until 2027. So how much of this also is not just Apollo backing AI, but Apollo backing Intel for the long term?
Absolutely. This is all about partner selection, structuring. Every situation is going to be different. That's the beauty of private capital. It doesn't have to fit one single box. You can really be creative to meet the needs of the project, the needs of the counterparty. And this is just a great example of how you're going to see more and more of this. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to see more of it, does Intel need more? They're trying to take a crack at NVIDIA. That is no easy feat.
Right. Well, I think Intel's announced over $150 billion of projects. So that's just one of, I think, many companies across lots of different industries that really need this type of capital.
Are you talking to other companies, too, besides Intel for this type of thing?
Well, no comment, but you can probably assume.
Well, just the last thing on this, Scott, because, we are here in Europe. This is a Europe deal. It's a plant in Ireland, and Europe has been behind on manufacturing. Is there some way that this is almost a test tube, that's a test trial, and if this works, maybe you do more in Europe like this?
Well, I think just zooming out a little bit, I do think you touch on an important point, which is if you compare the growth rates in Europe versus the growth rates in the U.S., obviously it's undeniable what's happening. A big part of that is companies' access to capital. Right, in the U.S., in addition to the banking system, you have a very robust capital markets, a securitization market, a very deep private capital market. In Europe, all of those things either don't exist or are very, very small, very fragmented, very nascent. And I think you need to see more and more of this, and you will start to see private capital play a bigger role here in Europe.
It's a tougher environment, though, because there does feel to be more regulation here. So how does that impact your global allocation, that there's opportunities here, but they're a little bit harder to execute?
Well, it just makes it more complicated, but you're seeing it. I think European leaders are starting to recognize that Europe is choked for capital, that is limiting the amount of growth, that Europe is falling behind, and it needs this type of capital. It needs to encourage private capital. It needs to encourage securitization in order to make that happen. And, I know Europe's been talking about it for a while, but, hopefully this is a bit of the wake-up call it needs to get going.